I'm looking for all the baddies all over the world. Ladies, where my baddies at? I'm bad, you bad. Way bad. Where my baddies at? I'm bad, you bad. Where my baddies at?
Welcome to the Not So Secret Lives podcast. I'm your host, Shan.
And I'm your host, Karina.
And today we have a very special guest, and I'm so pumped. I'm actually going to let her introduce herself so that I don't get any of the things wrong, because she has a lot going on right now.
Hi. So my name is Lauren Hayes, and I am a relationship coach, and I work specifically with couples that are in or interested in ethical non-monogamy.
I love it. We're super pumped to have you on. And you also have a book.
Yes. I just came out with a book about a month ago. It's called For Better or Even Better, 7 Lessons on Love and Life from a Non-Monogamist.
I read it in 2 hours today.
It's short. It's quick.
It's short, but it was good. It was like very engaged. It's very well written. There are actually parts that I took quotes of and sent to myself because not for me, I could relate to a lot of it. I've never done the ethical non-monogamy or an open relationship or anything like that. But there were parts in the beginning of the book I was like, this is speaking to my soul.
Yeah, it's meant to speak to everyone's soul.
It
so
did.
I think because it says it's written by a non-monogamist, and I did learn these lessons through non-monogamy.
Yeah.
I think people have an idea that you have to be at least interested in ENM. I'm going to call it ENM from now on.
Perfect.
ENM to get the book, and nothing could be further from the truth. These are love and life lessons for everybody.
Oh, I can absolutely vouch for that, because I totally felt that.
I love that. Anything that I've ever read about ENM, I have always thought this could go into any relationship. You don't have to be one way or the other.
So 100%. So the training that I've done is Gottman Training Level 1. Gottman Training, if you know the name Gottman, it's one of the biggest names in relationships, is about monogamous relationships.
Okay.
So that confuses some people. But the thing is, non-monogamous relationships are not different than monogamous relationships in terms of what makes them a healthy relationship, their foundations, the trust, the commitment, all those pieces are the same. The one thing I would say is that we all think is a little different is that we do have to be operating at healthier levels within our relationship to invite the complexity in that we do. And I say this in the book, that when you're in non-monogamy, it's like taking your relationship to the gym. So you're going to constantly...
I was going to quote that.
Yeah, you constantly are shown where you need to do some more work. And so that's why you have to be a little healthier, and then you continue to get healthier and healthier, because it's going to continue to highlight any dynamic that really isn't working.
It's so true. And after reading the book today and really understanding how much communication needs to happen in an open relationship or a swinger type relationship, ENM, it almost seems like it's more healthy, because you do have to have this line of communication, and
trust.
There has to be this openness, and there has to be this trust that's going on.
Yeah. Let's define things really quickly for people, because a lot of people don't know. So ethical non-monogamy, very large umbrella term when practicing non-monogamy. Then the two sort of camps, I'll call them, underneath that are polyamory and swinging. Polyamory is we're all in for love and all the commitment and multiple relationships. Swingers are more, we're in it for friendship and sexual adventure, is what I like to say.
Cool.
Then there's everything in between, because that's the magic of ENM, is that you're creating whatever works for you and your partner. So as long as everybody else knows about it, then it can be whatever you really want it to be.
Totally. It's a very broad... It's just even in a monogamous relationship, no two relationships are the same.
Yeah.
It's what works for them. It's not going to work for everyone.
Yeah.
So that totally makes sense.
An open relationship is just another general term. So you'll hear ethical non-monogamy, consensual non-monogamy, open relationship, just open. People just say open. Those are all just kind of large. By someone saying that, you have to ask a lot more questions to find out what they're really doing.
When they're saying open.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, because it's are you open or are you both open? What's going on there?
Yeah, that's true.
Being on the dating apps, we'll run across that a lot. I feel like the ENM.
Oh, yeah.
Open.
Yeah,
Or,
especially on Tinder.
and I'm always like, oh, there's a lot of questions to be had there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's always an interesting conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there have been a couple of times that I've matched with people that are like, so I'm in an ENM relationship. And I'm like, okay, I have questions. Like, what does this mean? Do I have to be with your significant other as well? Or like, how does this work or whatever? And for the most part, they were like, no, we just kind of do it on our own and it works for us. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I love how Lauren said like it's an umbrella, because I feel like
totally.
it's different for each individual person, I feel like. And I feel like we've like maybe dipped our toes in it a bit. Like I kind of dated that guy that was polyamorous.
Yeah, I did.
And it was totally different. You know,
Yeah.
it's all just so different. It's amazing. I think.
Was because the polyamory guy, he was like, I want a relationship with you and I want a relationship with this person, which I'm guessing that like sounds like it describes polyamory.
Yeah.
And then for me, I was like hanging out with a married dude and they had an open relationship and they had this understanding, and it could only be like
They had rules.
they did have a lot of rules, which I totally respected. And I mean, I was into him enough to be like, I'm going to experiment with this.
And I'm just going to say one thing. We don't call them rules.
You do? Okay. All right.
What do you call them?
Yes, I would love to know.
We call them, so the more common term is boundaries or agreements. I prefer agreements, and I'll tell you why.
I like agreement. I do too. I love that.
Because a boundary is something that you state is something that you need to keep you safe. And it's also more like what you're going to do. So if you, technically speaking, a boundary is like, if you do this thing, because you can't control what other people do, then this is going to be my reaction, whatever. That's more of really what a boundary is.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreements are something obviously between two people that have now agreed to this particular way of operation in their relationship. And the reason I prefer to use agreements also is because then if someone breaks an agreement or breaks a boundary, it's kind of a different conversation of like, why did you break the boundary versus why did you break the agreement that we made?
Oh, so true.
I love that.
I also love that. And that works for everyone.
Because rules seem kind of funny too. It's like, oh, we have these rules and like naughty if you break them. But like an agreement is like,
true.
you guys
So true.
both agreed to this.
Yes.
You both put in the commitment. You both were,
Yeah.
I don't even know the word, but like
No, and she
there's integrity on both ends. And like if somebody breaks that agreement, like it's more hurtful.
Oh,
I don't know if it's, I think that it's always hurtful if someone's boundary or agreement or whatever gets gets crossed. But it is a little bit different nature of conversation, because if the person agreed to it and then continued to do it, you know, is this not working for you? Is that why?
Right.
And in most, I don't want to say most cases, but like in a healthy relationship, you always want to give your partner the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
You know, most of the time when we cross a boundary or break an agreement, we don't realize something about the agreement, or there's always a gray area, or, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of that. So my husband and I have a really funny ongoing conversation about making out. Like, what does making out mean to you? Because it was like, what'd you guys do the other night? Well, we just made out. What does that mean?
Right.
And so like these terms that you just throw around, like having feelings for people, making out, like all these different things that we just use. It's like you actually have to talk about what that means to each one of you.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Because we
very
don't
true.
have that boundary around making out. But if I can see a couple making a boundary, like, you know, you can only make out.
Right. Yeah. About the clothing, tongue and mouth. That's it.
And then, you know, the boundary gets crossed when they're like, well, I thought making out was like under the clothes, or, you know,
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. It's totally
A
different.
silly example, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Karina and I, am sure, have different meanings for making out. And we talk about this shit all the fucking time. And we still probably have a different like meaning for what it is to us.
Yeah, no, making out for me is strictly kissing with tongue.
I know. We got off on a tangent. Okay, so that's what it is to me too. Whatever. Anyhow.
Now everyone's going to be talking about what making out means.
It's so true. We've just started a conversation for everyone.
Exactly.
I go back to elementary school. It's like making out, heavy petting, like second base.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy petting.
Yeah. Heavy
Third, what's third base?
fingers and toes and
Well, actually, I don't know.
but third base for me is like
Fingers and
fingering
toes.
and I don't know.
She has a
Toe
lot.
kink. Ew, God, no.
I'm kidding.
No.
I've never heard that one.
I would say like a handy or like a blowy or having a dude go down on you or getting fingered. I would say like anything but sex, I feel.
Is third base.
Or butt sex.
No. Butt sex is
No.
for me.
That's what I'm saying. Anything but that. Like anything but like intercourse or butt sex. We don't know.
I thought you meant anal.
I mean, I did, but I didn't.
Well played.
So that's what it is for me. Anyway.
So funny.
Okay. I have questions. I have so many questions that I'm like drawing a blank, but like I want to know where these sex parties are and where these like swinger party. I want to go.
Get down to it. Okay.
Well, okay, wait. Leading question.
Yes.
You can be like a single person in like a swinger community.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Tell me where these places are because I love this.
Yes. Okay. So that is actually so swingers are typically couples,
Right.
But there are many single people that hang out in the swinger community as well, playing with couples or other singles or all kinds of things. So,
Love. Okay.
I think there's an idea about, and I just had this conversation with someone the other day about reclaiming the term swinger because swinger has a lot of negative connotations.
Yeah.
And then so that led to a really interesting conversation about like what defines swinging. So to me, what defines swinging is just being open for sexual adventure, and it is more typically practiced in a couple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then somebody else said it's always a hetero couple, and I was like, absolutely not. So then we're like, okay, so all these gay men practicing non-monogamy all these years, are they swingers? And it's like, oh, well, that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
Yeah,
I would think so.
I don't know all the. I think this is an interesting conversation within the community. Is what defines what. But in swinging, it's more about the sexual adventure, and there is usually and definitely not always some sort of emotional boundary around. We're not in this to fall in love with other people.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the one thing I do like to make really clear is that we have amazing friendships and an amazing community. And if you ever do show up there, you're never going to leave.
I am absolutely going to show up. You're going to hear from me all of the time.
Going with me next time.
Absolutely. Yes. I will absolutely go. Yes. I would love that.
Okay, it's a formal invitation.
Game on.
Yeah. And my husband's going to be very happy about that. And I am very happy about that.
I love this for me.
And I'll let him know about the kissing.
Be like, I see into your soul.
But also
you just walk around a party like, don't kiss that girl.
No, not that anyone would kiss you with that.
No, I mean,
asking for consent.
Okay. But yeah, that wasn't. So many things running through my mind.
Me too. Now I got myself.
I know. Okay, sorry.
What were you talking about?
Yeah, not know.
Wouldn't there be permission? Okay,
sorry. Okay. The singles. I think we're talking about the community. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So the swinging community, it is party oriented. It's a fun crowd. Very open-minded people, obviously.
Love those are our kind of people.
Now, there's a few kind of misconceptions that I always want to clear up. One, if you go to a swinger club, I think there's this idea that you might walk into like some kind of grand orgy and that you are going to be expected to join this in some way.
Oh, see, I have like no expectations or like things.
I think maybe in my younger years I would have thought that, but now, no, I don't think that.
More than no. I think a lot of people still have this sort of vision of a swinger club.
Probably.
And so it's like any other club. So we actually took by the way, anyone who's not ENM, we refer to as vanilla. So I'll probably use that term a bunch.
Love it. I love it.
And you can be spicy vanilla.
Oh, I was going to say
spicy vanilla.
Yes. When we were talking about her coming on the podcast, I was like, it gets a little spicy. She's like, you're like what I like to consider spicy vanilla. And I'm like, I kind of love that.
That's the thing.
Yes, I love it. That's fantastic.
And so we actually took a vanilla friend of ours to the New Year's Eve party recently. And he was a little nervous on the way there. And then afterwards, he's like, oh my God, that was so much fun. He's like, it's like any other club, except everyone's like, the people are older. Like a lot of clubs can tend to be very young people.
Yeah.
So it is generally a little bit older because that people tend to get into it later years.
We're getting old now, so I love it.
This is the benefit of getting old.
Oh my God, I love it.
And it's just fun and dancing. And again, open-minded, and just there is a sense of community quite often because
I love that.
There's a couple of reasons for that. And one thing is that we're all living underground a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this is not something a lot of people are open about, unfortunately. It's not a very accepted thing. Which
especially in Utah.
Yeah, we're really working on. So as soon as you meet somebody else in this community, you're like kind of holding each other's secrets.
Yeah.
And that's a concern that people have when they're getting into it. What if somebody sees us? What if somebody finds out? And those are valid concerns. And also, I'm like, if you run into someone in the context of a swinging event, you are both doing the same thing. So
right.
So who's going to tell on who here?
Yeah. And
probably nobody.
No.
And then other people finding out. I mean, the community really values privacy and discretion,
which completely makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And we're all in that same boat. So, it's a valid concern. And also, why? We're all consenting adults here. And it's really crazy that we are this faction of people that are still really hiding. And
it's so true. But like you made such a good point in your book too about like a lot of it stemming from like a religion and like the way that we were raised and like all the shame behind sex and like even just like vanilla sex. Like there's still so much shame behind, with certain people about like being a sexual person or being open about sex. And so
Yes.
It sucks. I hate how taboo it is. That's why we started this podcast, honestly.
Yeah. And I love that.
Thank you.
Pretty openly about
it.
And
it is funny. Well, especially being in Utah and a lot, well, not a lot, but some of the people that I've met, I mean, my sibling included, like grew up very LDS. And so it's so funny. To have it go to that point. It's like one extreme to the other, which is not a bad thing, but it's like you've been like pushed down all your life.
Yeah.
Sexually and like you just like want to experience. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to want to experience that and be open about it and be free with it. And like, it's such a beautiful experience, I think, to have it with other people.
Yeah.
Grow in that way. I don't know.
No, it is.
And like, you're talking about sexually?
Sexually, yeah.
Okay, so I want to go a step further and like, it's not even not a bad thing. It's just part of us.
That's what I mean. Like it's like
it is
growing up in
part of being a human.
Yeah.
And so it's really strange how that has gotten a bad rap. So
I know.
And let me tell you, one of the things that I love about the work that I do is and just being in the community actually is watching, especially women come in because we only know what we knew of before non-monogamy, so when you're first getting this in, you're like imagining any other kind of club or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's a guardedness, and obviously people don't know what they're doing in the beginning. I certainly didn't. We didn't.
Oh, for sure.
And then you see this sexual expression happening. I'm not talking about people having sex in front of you or anything, but just a sexual expression, a comfort with sexuality, wearing whatever the hell they want, because that's what you will see in a swinger club is, just this. And it's a safe environment to do that. And that is the confusing thing, especially as a woman when you get into it. So then you like start opening up and doing this more, and this is what the partners report, like, oh my God, I love seeing this side of my partner.
Totally.
And it's not just because they're having more sex, it's because it's a whole side of you that is getting expressed and coming out, and then of course that affects other parts of you. And so I just watch it over and over again, the confidence that people have, because it's just inviting another part of themselves in. And so it is really amazing. I feel like I've experienced it. I watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
And I'll share just this quick thing because I think it'll be a good segue to your story.
Yes.
I have a client. They're in their 60s. They just started swinging.
Love.
Yeah. And when they got into it, she was all about him. She's like, I love watching him. He has so much pleasure doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm, she's like, and we had a funny conversation because there's a thing in swinging that you always talk about, like, we're not going to take one for the team. Meaning if everybody's not fully into it, if you're not really, you're not going to go along with it. And in general, that's true. And there's gray areas around that too. But she was like, I love taking one for the team. She's like, I just love watching him. And it was all about him, you know.
That is so fascinating.
It was
'cause
really
usually it's the other way around.
It was really fascinating. Yeah. And I was also like, who am I to tell her she shouldn't take one for the team? Like, she is loving them.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, you know, they have some more experiences, to meet more people. Eventually, one day, she has an MFM, 2 guys. One was her husband and one was another guy that they met. And when we spoke after her experience, she was just glowing.
Oh my gosh.
And
still on my fantasy checklist.
They were just really like, they were both reveling about the experience and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, look how far you've come. Like, when we started this, this was all about him. And now you are just rocking your own experiences. Yeah. And she was like, I know. I am really walking tall these days.
Yes,
I may say that in the book, but that is what it's like. It's like you just...
Oh, absolutely. It seems like, honestly, like I've never felt, because I think at some point in the book you were like, I might get judged for this, or like there was never any part of me in general that was like, oh, well, I judge this, or I think this certain kind of way. I think I love how it's such like a beautiful expression of self, and like if the people that you're around and if your partner is good with it, like fucking go for it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Who is anyone to judge? Like, this is what's filling your cup. Like it's working out for you. Like, I love that.
Yeah. And
I'm so here for it.
I think when I wrote that, I thought the people would really be judging. So obviously, because I have 7 life lessons.
Yeah.
There was conflict that happened in most of those instances because that's how we learn lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. And so I thought the judgment might come more around like, well, of course you got hurt.
Yeah.
Of course that happened.
I could get that.
Because you were practicing non-monogamy.
Yeah.
But I just want to say we do not have the patent on hurt feelings.
Yeah.
Right.
Hurt feelings happen in all relationships. And I'm not sure why we have this idea that non-monogamy is where all the bad stuff happens.
Right. Oh. No, I was going to say that. I was going to say, like, you can't just turn off your feelings. Like, they're in you for a reason. Like, if you see something that would normally hurt before, it's probably still going to hurt a little bit. It's probably still going to have a little bit of a sting.
It would hurt with one person as opposed to...
Yeah.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just your feelings.
Yeah. Your
how
story.
You're being treated.
Mm-hmm. Your story, though, like, I'm an empath as well. And, like, I'm very, very in tune. When I was reading, I could, like, feel that. And I felt the things that you were going through. And I was like, oh, my God, I know this. Even though I don't really know it, I felt it. And I was like...
Yeah, because...
and just the way that you talk about like getting over or getting through it and like doing like the work and like understanding that maybe the work isn't doing what it should and like taking a different avenue. Like, so there were so many good points in your book that like make you kind of go, oh, okay. And it was fantastic.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Love that.
I also love it.
Did you? I thought we were going to.
Yeah, let's talk about Karina's threesome.
So, somebody else is sitting a little taller.
You know, it's funny because it was my first threesome ever.
Well, and it was your biggest sexual
and it was
fantasy.
My biggest sexual fantasy. Like we talked about it in a past episode where I always thought that it had to be like 2 girls and a guy for a threesome. I am personally not into girls.
Mm-hmm.
And we were reading a book in our book club, and there was like this chapter of this scene where like there are these 2 men and like totally
we're smut sluts.
Yeah, totally worshiping this woman. And after I read that chapter, I was like, oh my God, I need this in my life. And so it became my fantasy.
Well,
and met this guy. We're hanging out. He's fun, and he has friends who are swingers or, you know, I don't know.
They're very much in that lifestyle.
Yeah, they're very much in that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And he's like, so if I set something up, like, would you be open to it? And I was like, yes. Like scared, but excited at the same time because it's like my first one. And it went beautifully, like just how I kind of wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm. You even said it was like almost romantic.
It was a little romantic. And I left like feeling like I was worshipped. This was everything that I wanted. I felt like the center of attention, and like I think I was glowing, like you were saying. Like I was glowing.
Yes,
I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah, we would be like sitting on the couch watching TV, and she'd be like, "Hey, do you remember that I had a threesome?" I'm like, "Yes, I do, babe," and I absolutely love that for you.
It was amazing.
She loved it.
I was like, I don't know if I can ever have sex with just one person. I mean, I can, but like that was so amazing. It was so amazing. It was so good.
I hear you. I totally get it. And my husband and I joke oftentimes when we're just the two of us. We're like, a extra set of hands would be handy right now.
For real. Like that was the other thing. I'm like, there's always a set of hands or lips or something on me. Like this is the most amazing thing ever.
So amazing.
And I love that it was my first one. And like, I will continue.
Yeah. And what I want to acknowledge you for is the receiving.
Oh,
because that's a thing. It's really hard for a lot of people to receive that much worshing.
Oh,
I feel like that would be me.
Yeah, I feel like that.
I feel like I would have a hard time with that.
Thank you.
Very cool.
I think that's like what I had in my mind when I did this. And I was a little worried because, I mean, there's porn out there and there's like, you hear stories and I'm like, oh God, like how is it actually going to be?
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to be like that. And I explained to him how I kind of wanted it to be.
Oh, that's perfect.
And he communicated it to the other guy, and it was executed flawlessly. Like, it was so good.
And you could just tell that they were like, okay, we know what we're doing. Like they checked in with her. They made sure her comfortability level was good.
They did.
They went out to a drink or have drinks beforehand. And then
to get to know the other guy.
Yeah, to get to know the other guy.
And that's a really important aspect. So because sexual fantasy is sort of a bridge into the community. And I want to bring one other term up that I didn't define before, which is the lifestyle, because you've said it. Okay. And also it's more in the swinging community that we use the term the lifestyle.
Yeah, which makes sense.
And also within lifestyle, that's like a smaller umbrella term. Within lifestyle, people might be swingers. They might just hang out in the community but not play with others. They might, there's all kinds of different scenarios. But I have couples will come to me and like, well, we really want to have a threesome. Mm-hmm. And we've been hanging out bars and we just can't really make it happen. And I'm like, oh my dear God. Okay. There's an entire community that you should be leveraging for this activity because for two reasons. One, it's actually possible. Like you can go to a bar for the rest of your vanilla bar for the rest of your life and never find a third. Possible.
So true.
Right. Yeah. And second of all, you're going to have people that are experienced in these types of events. So they're going to know, the language and what to do and what to do next. And especially if it's your first one, like they're going to be able to guide a little bit. And also the biggest thing is like the expectations and the emotional expectations and all that kind of stuff, because, you go pick somebody up in a bar and they think that this is like a potential hookup relationship type thing. And you're like, oh no, we just wanted you for one night. Like that's more hurtful.
No. Okay.
I mean, and certainly I would hope that there would be more defining around that before, but I have heard all kinds of nightmare stories out in the vanilla world of people just picking people up and then surprising them like, oh, my husband's here too.
Oh, God.
I mean, horrible stories. And I actually think these stories are somehow get translated into ENM when actually those things don't happen in that community because we have sort of
it's like almost like your own language. Like you get it. And like okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
If someone is in a partnership and they're like, we want to explore, we actually do, like, this is something that we have talked about. It's something we'd like to explore, like getting with other couples or going to these kinds of parties and things like that. But they don't know anybody in that I was going to say field. Yeah. They don't know anybody in that field.
Yeah.
But they don't know other swingers or other open relationships or whatever. How would someone get started in something like this? Could you just like Google, like, hey, Google machine, like, how does that start?
One way you might find me. And then,
yes, queen.
So there are lots. So dating sites are a place. So
okay, that makes sense. Yeah,
specific dating sites, like swinger dating sites, and there.
Okay.
So it's an interesting time right now because there were some really large like swinger dating sites, and one of them I'm going to call it out, is called SDC.
Okay.
And the reason I'm calling it out is because it's a very educational place. Like, you go there, they have podcasts and zillions of articles, and so there's just a lot of education that can happen on that
That's
site.
really
On
cool.
that site, then if you become a member of that site, you have a dating profile, and and they're specific, and everyone is a swinger to some degree, but it's very specific around what you do and what you don't do. And like, so it's very swinger centric. Now there's some other dating apps that have become more popular recently. Field is one. There's one called 3Fun. And these are kind of more open. You know, they're not swinger specific. They're more open. So, which is great. You just have to be more, ask more questions about, their mode of how they do things. But that's how you start meeting people generally.
Okay, perfect.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and like, I mean, for those of us on dating apps, that's all we do is just sit and vet and try to ask questions, like you were saying with the more open relationship one.
And then there is, you can go to parties and clubs, and you will see those advertised sometimes on some of the sites. But here's the tricky thing: we're hiding. So,
right. That was my point. Is that like, how do we know? Where do we go? Like, what do we do?
Oh,
but we've got an N now, so
yeah, exactly. Private Facebook groups and things like that, but they're not searchable, so it can be very difficult. Once you can kind of get tapped into some of those things, especially locally, then you might learn about the clubs or the parties or whatever. And one thing I will say, one thing people really say often, I want to go to a house party. I want to go to a house party. Because for them, they're like, it's not like a date. Like, there's so much pressure going out with just like one other couple or something like that. That feels like too much. Although I would say, again, we're a very welcoming community. If you're new, just reach out to people. People are really happy to answer your questions and whatever.
For sure.
But then also, maybe they don't want. We have events called hotel takeovers. I don't know if you've heard. Ooh,
I have not, but I love the sound of it.
Yeah, so that is what it is. We take over an entire hotel, and there are different groups that organize these things and stuff. And that feels a little too big for people. Like, I don't know if we want to go to that. So they say they want to go to house parties, but house parties are just, they vary so much in the vibe. And, it might be a bunch of people who really know each other well, and that can just be as awkward. Or, we went to some bad parties in the beginning, and we would just stay because we felt like we had to.
Right. You're like,
it was like not a good vibe. And then that's one of the first pieces of advice I give people. I'm like, go to a party, and then if it's not your vibe, just leave.
Yeah.
It's not going to change.
And don't base everything off of this one party.
And don't base it off of that. Yeah.
You have to find your groove a little bit.
Totally.
Yeah.
So... Oh, fuck. Hold on. I lost my train of thought. I had a question. So I have a friend. He and his wife have been swingers for, 20 years. And toward the end of my relationship with my ex-boyfriend, we had talked about like wanting to not even necessarily open it up, but we kind of wanted like people to watch us having sex, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to reach out to my friend and see if he can like tell us where to go, what to do, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I reached out to him. He did send me a couple of the Facebook groups. I like could not get in. That shit is like locked down. You have to like answer questions and you have to know the person that invited you and like,
oh wow.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it is such a tight knit
that
group
it would be
of people.
that way, honestly. Yeah.
But you can like feel the level of respect behind it, and you can like sense that they're just not going to have anybody because they're looking out for their people, and they want this to be like a whole privacy thing and whatever. So
community.
Yeah, it is a community. I didn't get accepted to any of them. I was like, well, fuck what
I got you. You're gonna get accepted.
I even asked him, I was like, I put your name, like I don't know what else to do. And they've been obviously in the community for a very long time, and he was like, I don't know. I'm like, fuck, you're just gonna
makes me love it that much more, though.
Like the level of respect that I feel that is in this community, and like from reading your book and like seeing the just mutual respect among people, like it just seems like such a good vibe.
It is.
Of just people to fucking chill with, even. Like, just let's hang out or whatever.
And that's what I said. A lot of people will come. I often say people will come for the sex or be attracted for the sex, and they stay for the community. And there are lots of people who maybe never even have played with other couples that are just attracted to the community, and they hang out in the community. And actually, that's another big one, is there might be voyeurs. So the club in Salt Lake City is not so there are some swinger clubs that are sex clubs.
Okay.
And that is not the nature of the one in Utah. It's just more of a regular club.
It would make sense.
And in the ones where you do have sex, there's always like a front of the house and the back of the house. So it's not like you walk into people having sex right there. It's like the club part is up front, and then if you want to go in the back, then
so it's like more structured and organized.
And a whole nother set of rules that exist back there, whatever. But a lot of couples do want to just be watched or watch others. They just enjoy going and watching others. And so in those types of clubs, that is another way that you can easily make that happen. You have sex, someone's going to watch you. Unless you pull the curtain or whatever little signal that you show that you don't want people watching.
Yeah.
Which we've also talked about. Like,
that's one of our other things too that we want to be watched. I think it's higher up for Karina.
Yeah.
Mainly because I'm just like,
do you want to watch or would you like to be watched? I can't remember.
I want to be watched.
You want to be watched. Yeah.
We did an episode on sexual fantasies, and I couldn't think of anything, because to me, sex is just sex, and whatever you do, it doesn't feel like a fantasy to me, and it doesn't feel like a taboo thing that has to be categorized as a fantasy. And so I was never oh yeah, I want to be watched. I was just I don't know, because that seems like such a healthy sexual thing to me if all parties involved are good with it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it was more of a goal for us.
Yeah, I think
it's just something that we haven't done yet. It's not like this thing that couldn't be attained.
Yeah.
I feel like it has always been attainable, just getting to that point, because you and I are very open sexually.
Right. And my thing, I love, it was the one thing that I could come up with that I was okay, this might be not normal for people, but I was I love having sex in public.
Oh, yeah, you do. She does.
And I was I found one. We had a full ass episode of sexual fantasies, and the whole time I was just I don't know. I can't, because it all just seems normal to me.
Yeah, the idea of sexual fantasies is a really interesting or funny part to my history, because when my husband and I started reading about swinging or ENM in general, we didn't know what we were going to do yet. That's a lot. That's a lot of the conversation starters, or start sharing your sexual fantasies, or And I was I don't have any. I'm what is wrong with me? What is, because I have.
That's how I felt.
I did not grow up in the LDS church.
I didn't either.
I
did. Yeah.
I honestly never felt shame around sex. I know this is
I didn't either.
Yeah, that's really weird, but I didn't. I actually did another podcast where we talked all about shame, and I said, which is true, that at some point I felt a little ashamed that I didn't feel ashamed, because I was why is
that is me?
Why is everyone else feeling ashamed? What am I missing here? But I think maybe almost because of that, I also thought fantasies, and I've never been into porn. It's just not my thing. It
goes in waves for me.
Yeah, I have absolutely no judgment for people who love it, and a lot of people do, and it's just not my thing. So I don't know.
Totally respect that.
I don't know. I was I'm not sure, because I was having a lot of sex all the time.
It didn't feel like something that you would.
That I was fantasizing about, because I was I'm having a lot of it. It's fun. I like it. It wasn't there's more, I was already fulfilled with the sex that I was having. I actually have a funny masturbation story about that too, because I became sexually active at 16. I never masturbated until 19-ish or 20. Okay. And people are really surprised by that. And I was but I was having sex. I thought masturbation was for people who were not having sex, wanted to.
Yeah. I feel that was me too. Because
so I had a boyfriend that was just blown away that I had never masturbated. And I was like, is that weird? So I literally went home and masturbated that night because I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I was like, okay, I have been missing out.
Okay,
Well, here's the thing.
pissed because I feel like we need to go to a fucking seminar or something. I am 41 years old. I cannot get myself off.
I can't get
stopped
myself
masturbating.
off either.
Not with a toy or vibrator either.
Nope.
I don't use toys.
I have used toys. I got so pissed when I was like so close, so right there, and I was just like, "This is my moment," and then nothing, and I fucking threw it against, and I broke it. I was like so frustrated.
I threw a vibrator across the room once too.
See, we're like the
kindred
same
spirit.
person, babe.
See, and I've never used toys. It's just always been me.
But you would like it because you like clitoral stimulation.
I do.
You would like a vibrator a lot, I feel, and it would totally get you off.
But here's my thing with vibrators too, is I feel like I would use it too much and then like not be able to get off
is a
in
myth.
person.
But that's
No,
Yes.
I don't feel like it is. I've heard it from a bunch of women.
I researched it today when I was or I did a lot of research today on orgasms.
I like the real things, like just
same.
let me
same. Totally same.
play with my clit
I guess it does make
all
sense,
the time.
but scientifically, it is a myth.
Well,
Scientifically,
but here's the one thing that is true is that we can create habits around how we have orgasm.
yeah.
So we orgasm in a particular position, we orgasm in a certain way.
A lot of sense.
And we can sort of create some pathways around that. And so it becomes more difficult to have orgasms other ways.
And I don't want that
And
personally.
I feel like a vibrator once in a while is not going to disrupt that.
For sure.
But also, if you don't want to, then you shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you've gotten this long.
I'm
Fuck
4 years
it.
old. Yeah, I don't want to. I'll be like, hey, just come over and do it for me.
I'm just going to say you're missing out. But that is only my humble opinion.
I'll try.
I feel like I haven't been having good sex lately or something because I haven't had an orgasm in like. I usually am good at it.
sorry.
I'm good at it. I'm good at having.
Do you orgasm easily?
Typically,
not.
yeah, because
Vibrators across.
She needs to be like.
But I like to be railed
She
though.
needs to be
So
pounded, whereas I can like have clitoral stimulation.
yeah,
Have an orgasm. She needs to be like.
yeah.
Yeah,
big
I'm a clitoral stimulation person.
I am too.
You're having
Like 90% of women are.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because my clit is so sensitive.
Mhm.
Well, that should. Okay.
Right. But almost like painfully sensitive.
Oh.
And that's why I think that is like enough touch on said clit
Yeah,
that,
that makes
sense.
It just makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot know.
Wait, do you like when they play with your?
Like during
Oral?
sex?
Yeah, oral. Do you
I
like?
need better sexual partners. I've just.
I was gonna say oral is like
I know.
we've talked about this. Oral is like my favorite, and she's like, I can't get behind it. I can.
Oh, I
Sometimes,
love
but
it.
I'm like, if you were to go down on me, like the whole time, I'd be.
Yeah. See, I love the act of it. I think it's very intimate and whatever. And it feels fine. Like I can honestly say.
I love the way it feels. He is not doing it right.
But I can honestly say in 41 years, I don't think I've ever gotten off from a dude going down on me. What? Sean, get over here.
Aye, Captain.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that sucks.
I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm so in my head. Like or maybe I don't even know what an orgasm is. Maybe I've never had an orgasm.
You've had an orgasm.
I know.
You're like, you know.
Oh, I definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we all like. That's the thing is we all orgasm in different ways. I mean, one thing that I'm really jealous of after being around so many other women and having sex is how easily some people can orgasm. I'm just not an easy orgasmer.
Yeah.
The word. And so it takes me a little more time and not even the time thing. It's more just finesse and lots. It's just a little.
I feel like that's
whereas
pretty
I
natural.
see women having like orgasm after orgasm after orgasm after orgasm, just like in a row, and I'm like, I want that.
Help me. What can I do better?
I'm the same way
Yeah.
as you.
And I think it's a combination. I think there is some wiring. I think there's a lot of habit stuff, wiring about what we believe about what our bodies can do also.
Yeah.
And I did actually have an experience recently. So I went away on this women's retreat. It was not a lifestyle retreat. It was vanilla women. But we talked about sex a lot. Like it was very sex positive.
I love that.
And And I don't know if it was the buildup partially of that. Then I came back and sometimes I'll do a 5 milligram gummy of edible because that really helps. There is a whole science. Like a whole
so much
research.
better.
For women, there's like a condition that some women have. It's like it has a stupid name, like hard to orgasm or something like that. But they really do have like a hard time orgasming, and so cannabis is like a really great fix for these women. And so
I can vouch for that.
There's this research in. I know a group that is trying to get cannabis on the medical need list for women who need it for orgasm.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Sign me up.
But men don't care. Men in the position to like approve or deny this whole like using it for a medical reason. They're just like, we don't give a shit if a woman has an orgasm or not.
Okay, you are
fucking patriarchy.
You are sleeping with the wrong man. Oh my God.
I'm talking about a patriarch. Whatever level.
Okay, well, I come back for this retreat, do that gummy, and we're with another couple also, and I just start having orgasm after, like I just started talking about. And the couple that we've been with many times before, they're like, "What's happening? This is unusual for you." And I was like, "No kidding," and this is amazing. And it went on for hours. It got to a point, and this is my point around the like neural pathway thing. It got to a point where like I understood where the orgasm was coming from every time. And it was like one would happen and another one would build like almost automatically. So I started playing with it in my mind and I started having them with no stimulation.
That was another thing that I researched today because we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get you on tonight. So I was doing like this orgasms. And that was another thing is that women can have them just like working out or like with zero stimulation just from like programming your mind or like thinking a certain kind of way.
It's certainly not usual. And it's certainly not usual for me. I have not been able to replicate that evening.
Yeah, like, damn it.
It does point to this idea that like we have certain beliefs and pathways and things around how we orgasm. And I guess I got past that for a night.
I love that for you.
For one night.
I love that.
You had your moment.
I did.
You'll get it back, babe.
I do. I love lots of moments. I'm not concerned.
Oh, yeah. You're like, it's the least of my concerns. Oh, I love that for you.
Build up. I like it to go on for hours. I don't know. That's my thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, lots of foreplay. Lots of...
I'm a quickie person, but apparently it's because I can get off with a good fingering. But again, it has to be like.
I feel like you can get off pretty easily.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I think it's because I also just don't get in my head because 90% of the time when I'm with somebody I don't really care about.
Well, it's like
that sounds
like
awful.
Lauren just said. Like I feel like I'm in my head at first, and like I need to ease in.
Yeah,
and then I slowly get out, but it takes a little bit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I actually do have a good question. So for me, I feel like that the reason I wouldn't be able to personally be in an open relationship is because when I do get the feels for somebody, like that is it. That is my person. I get like possessive, but not in a crazy fucking way, but like that's mine. Don't touch, no touchy. That's mine. And so I feel like it takes a very specific like personality type to be able to navigate that. And so how do you go about those feelings when you start feeling jealousy, or do you not feel that anymore? Because there was a part of your book where you do go into depth about that, which I feel like is a lot of a big part of the questions that people have when they are trying to navigate swinging in ENM. So, I mean, I don't want to give your whole book away because I really do think people should.
You can't give away the whole thing.
Yeah, because I really do think people should read it.
Yeah.
But like, I think that for me, I would be gutted. Like if I was in a certain situation where my significant other was like really digging somebody.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be okay with that.
Well, and so that's the whole thing is, first of all, not everyone wants to be non-monogamous. Yeah. And that is one thing. I should have said this way at the beginning. I don't think everybody should be non-monogamous. Yeah. I don't think most people probably want to be. It is very culturally wired into us to be monogamous. And I think it's very cultural. It's actually not wired into us genetically, but
which makes sense because even biblically, like for the men, like men would have multiple partners or like do multiple things, but when women would do it, like it was so shame and like frowned upon, and
That's just what they wrote.
yeah, well, like even in the society, like even in religion, like some religions, like it's kind of not accepted, but like more accepted for men to have like multiple partners or to like step out on their wives or like yeah.
So you should read, or not should. I know I like to should.
I love to read. So
Sex at Dawn.
Okay.
And that's also kind of an ENM Bible in a way, I'll just say, because it makes a very strong, it challenges the narrative about women being less sexual, about us being monogamous biologically.
Yeah.
It challenges all of that. And it's a really good read.
That sounds like that sounds like something that would be totally up my alley, because like I feel that women are like such sexual creatures, and we are, but there's like such a stigma behind it, and it is like so much more taboo for women to be like these sexual creatures, and you know, like slut shaming and things like that. And so yeah, I can't get behind that, because like you, I mean, I grew up in a very sex positive household, so it was I never felt shame behind it, and it was always so weird to me that people did.
Okay, let's be clear. I did not grow up in a
sex positive household.
That's why I don't know. Like, I grew up in a Christian household. I knew my mom wouldn't approve. I didn't tell her when I became sexually active because I knew she wouldn't approve, but I didn't personally feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
And like after my first time, and I was in love with my boyfriend, but after the first time, I remember having this thought like, oh, okay, that's sex. Like everyone makes such a big deal.
I felt the exact same way. I was 15 and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then I went on to enjoy it from there. And I have no explanation for why I didn't feel ashamed, because there's probably some factors there that I should have, but I just didn't.
I am the same way.
And what a gift. I mean, honestly,
no,
for real.
For real.
Gift. Yeah. Especially, you know, I moved to Utah 8 years ago. So that's when I really started hearing people's stories of being in the church and leaving the church. And that's another thing. There's a very large ENM community in Utah, and that surprises people.
Oh, yes. No, we've talked about this.
Also not, because it's like there has to be balance everywhere, right? Yeah. And so we were actually surprised. We didn't become ENM until we were living here. And at first, when we were looking into it, we were like, okay, certainly it's not happening here.
Right.
We only looked to other cities and stuff. And then when we stumbled upon it here, we were like, oh my gosh, this is
huge community.
Huge. Yeah. Yeah. And so to go back to that question, I feel very strongly that everyone should know about non-monogamy. I think that we grow up, we don't even choose monogamy. We just do it because it's what we grow up in. We've never given anything else a thought. Very few people, at least maybe that's changing a little bit now. Definitely not when I was growing up did I ever even hear of non-monogamy or know what a swinger was or anything like that. Yeah. And so, and even if you do hear about these things, it's usually negative.
Yeah.
And so my mission is that everyone makes a conscious choice, and whether that conscious choice is into monogamy or non-monogamy. And you can't actually make a conscious choice into monogamy until you learn about the other.
Yeah.
So, you know, even if people hear this podcast or they hear another one that I'm on and they turn to each other and they're like, I don't think I'd be into that. Me neither. Okay, now you just made a conscious choice into monogamy.
Yeah.
Now, do we think we're doing monogamy well? Because that's the other piece that I would say as a culture, we're not really doing monogamy well as it was originally laid out, as meeting the one, staying married your whole life and whatever. We're not doing that in reality. So I don't know why that continues to be
we can't know.
Ideal. And I mean, as a culture. And so my thing is just to spread the word, because I think a lot more people would be interested in it if they knew what it really was.
Yeah.
And not just these misconceptions about it.
Yeah.
And also, if you're not into it, wonderful. Now you get to make a conscious choice into what you really want and what do you want to build in monogamy. That's my other question that I always want people to ask. Because in non-monogamy, because we don't have these rules and
Yeah.
You really are creating this relationship
Yeah.
out of nothing because you don't know anything about it when you get into it. And actually, monogamy should be the same way. We should all be creating whatever really works for us.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yes.
Well, I even after reading your book today, I texted Karina and I was telling her about it. And like in my mind, I'm thinking like, I'm almost a little bit jealous of this like community and like of the respect level and things like that. And Karina was like, so do you want to be ENM now? And I'm like, no, like maybe I can't know like until I feel like you're in. But again, I'm single. So
well, and you might want to hang out with the community and not
absolutely going. It's not even I might want to. I am absolutely going to do it.
Okay. And then I was going to say something about the jealousy piece.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Everybody experiences jealousy.
Yeah.
And also, some people experience it more than others.
Yeah.
And also, people can work with it. I have, there's another educator that I know that has a whole course on how she got over her jealousy. So if it's something that someone wants to tackle for some reason, they can do so.
Yeah.
Another thing is that we have a very different relationship with jealousy than I would say most. And that is we just accept it.
Yeah.
Jealousy can show up in different ways. It doesn't always feel good, but it's telling us something. So every emotion is telling us something. And so if we can be in partnership with our jealousy, that's the thing, is everyone is like, oh, jealousy is terrible. I don't want to feel it. I don't want to feel it.
Yeah.
Actually welcome your jealousy in.
Oh, I do.
And
I know that I'm a jealous person.
Hey, jealousy, what's up? Like, what are we feeling right now? Is this an insecurity? Is this
what I
what's
do?
going on right now? And then you can just kind of learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Or about your relationship or whatever. And, I would say that's the relationship. And this is to different degrees. I would say the polyamorous community is even better at managing, understanding, dealing with jealousy. And in the swinging community, I think some of there's some interesting dynamics between the community. So like the polyamorous community will kind of look at swingers and be like, you don't really know what you're doing because we have more agreements with our partners and things like that they were like, you're just trying to control your partner or limit your partner or whatever.
Yeah.
My whole thing is we're all just trying to feel safe and secure and loved in our relationships, whatever structure we're in.
Completely.
If that requires a lot of agreements between a couple, so be it. What's my judgment about that? I don't have a judgment about your
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
I only have judgment if if you have rules and your partner is feeling like they can't do something because of your rule, that's different than an agreement. That's why I use that.
I use
that different language.
Yeah.
Think of that differently now on.
Oh,
I love it so much.
I do too.
And so, so that is just jealousy is something we just accept.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like I'm a little bit of a different person in general because I am an empath and I can like really kind of like see where people are coming from and I understand their emotions and I can like vibe on what they're telling me. And then within myself, like I'll know that I'm feeling a certain kind of way and I do try to like diagnose it. I'm like, okay, where is this coming from? What is this doing? Like, why is this, why are you feeling this crazy kind of way?
Why have you?
So yeah, why have I what?
Like, why have you felt the jealousy? I guess.
In the past?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it...
Trust them?
No. I think a lot of it is that I like... I almost like want princess, quote unquote, princess treatment, but like not really. Like in my past relationships of like almost being like put on a pedestal and being the only person for my person and like knowing that I could be in a room with 100 different beautiful women who are all naked and like fawning over the person that I was with and that he's just got like laser vision across the room for me. That was just always the mentality that I've had. Yeah. Being in the relationships I've been in. And really kind of what I was getting from those long-term relationships that I was in. And it was very mutual. And so, but I mean, to be
There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
No, but I haven't like felt I don't think I've liked anyone enough to feel that way since I've got divorced, I guess. Well, except for my ex-boyfriend, but he cheated on me. So when I took him back, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't want this.
Yeah, there's a trust thing there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so
I haven't liked anybody enough since then to like get that. I don't think.
I'm just
Have
going
I?
to give you something to think
know.
about. Because especially in the swinging community, you can still be up on that pedestal and you can still feel your partner worshiping you above anyone else.
And that
there
is
can-
why I
and there
would
can
like it.
still be naked women around
Yeah.
that you and he are enjoying in a different capacity.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that I think is really important about the community, because this ties very much into this cultural dialogue that we have around relationship.
Uh-huh.
So in monogamy, it's like we have friends, maybe best friends or acquaintances over there, and then relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have words for all these different levels of connection.
Yeah.
This is where we operate in non-monogamy. There's so much between, hi, how are you? And I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
So many different types of connection and levels of connection. And we have very deep friendships that we're not in love. We love them
Yeah. Right.
as our friends, and we're not in love with them.
Yeah.
And so that's the piece that's the most confusing to people, because we don't have any kind of narrative around that in monogamy, other than because it's either a friend or it's a threat.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. True.
It's so true.
is awesome.
That's like so smart. It is. You know what? And it's crazy because like I've said this 1,000 times. It's going to be like the staple for this fucking episode. But like after reading your book, I just had so many more thoughts, and it felt like I was having like almost a part of my brain opened up to this like whole other thing of, again, just like the genuine love that everybody seems like in that community that they have for each other, and that respect, again, like with the privacy and just respecting each other. And like you were talking about how you guys went to like a club or like a sex party thing, and that people aren't just like rushing up on you like they would at like a normal club because you are dressed a certain kind of way. Like they have this level of respect. They're not going to cross boundaries. And like
That's all I've ever heard about that community, though, is like there's so much respect.
Yeah.
I personally have never heard anything negative.
I haven't either.
It's always been.
It's not utopia. I do always want.
Oh, no. We get that. But
there are assholes in every place in the world, but the majority is the respectful community, and then the exceptions. Versus, I think in a normal club, it's like more like the majority is.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And see, I'm speaking as like a single woman who goes to a club, and like men assume, again, like you said in your book, like you make eye contact with them and then you're fucking stuck with them all night because they're like, oh my God, that was my cue.
Yes.
And you're like, no. Yeah. But again, it's all about just like setting the limit and like having a boundary for yourself when you're like going out and doing those kind of things. So
I love it.
You cannot know. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I think the important things that I always want to stress to people are the conscious choice piece. Yeah, is really important to me. And I don't know if there's anything.
Okay, well, we're going to have you on for a part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
After we go out. Yes.
I was going to say we should go out and then have a part 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We will be like, our worlds have been forever changed.
I'm so excited.
That's going to be so fun.
Oh, it'll be so fun. This is like a before and after. Oh, no, baby. You are not getting out of this.
Be like, hey, so you remember you told us?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
No, I'm down. I'm totally down.
Oh, I'm totally down. It will be so fun. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on today. Like,
for having
it. Absolutely. It's so nice to like speak to somebody who's on our level about being lighthearted about like quote unquote taboo subjects, and like having this like free space of speaking the way that you want to. And so we just really appreciate you coming on. Do you want to give us your social medias or your things?
Okay. So probably the best place to like find out more about me and my classes and my book, and I have some free guides on my website. It's swinginglifestylecoach.com.
Okay.
And one of the guides is called "Is ENM Right for You?" And one of that's more for couples. And then there's another one called "Popping the ENM Question." That's when like one person thinks they might be interested and they're scared about bringing it up with their partner.
I love that.
Yeah. So those are a couple of free guides. Then I do a free webinar also every 6 to 8 weeks called "Just Curious," and that's like a broad overview about it. So people who are interested can kind of learn a bit more. And then, of course, I have a coaching program as well.
I love
that.
I love it so much.
And I'm the same everywhere on Instagram and Facebook. I'm Swinging Lifestyle Coach. So.
Perfect. You're awesome. Like, I want to be your friend. I want to be you're locked in now. Sorry.
Awesome.
You met this random girl on Instagram and
I'm glad.
Oh, I love it.
Shannon's easy to become friends with.
I'm all yeah.
I know, right?
Aren't I though?
You are. I love you.
I love you, babe. Karina, is there anything else you want to talk about, babe? No?
Okay.
Have a great time.
Oh, it was so great.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a wrap.
Da-da-da.
Ba-ba-da-ba.
Woo.
To whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds can stack back against the wall, but even consider it such, no, you'll stand firm. Sit and watch from the sidelines one too many times. We get games to play, make me wanna lose my mind.